And the fact that the Biden DOJ is saying, oh, this is all a drug matter. Don't pay attention to the big guy. Don't pay attention to the corruption. Just make it one poor person struggling with addiction. That's highly concerning. And the third reason this is very troubling is I think all of this is a prelude to doing what Joe Biden and Merrick Garland want to do, which is indict Donald Trump. And they want to be able to say, look how even-handed we are. We indicted Hunter Biden. We indicted Donald Trump. We indict everybody. And that is politics, not law enforcement.
And that was Texas Senator Ted Cruz joining me yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures, describing what the DOJ is focused on when it comes to the Hunter Biden influence peddling. Joining me right now is the man who will have the gavel should the GOP win the majority in 8 days. Kentucky Congressman and ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, is here. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. You heard Ted Cruz talking about the FBI and the DOJ there. I know you've been working on an investigation specifically on Hunter Biden, and I want to get your take on what took place at the FBI. Why the FBI censored the Hunter Biden story right before the 2020 election. Why we now know they called Facebook and others and said, look, make sure you're on the alert for misinformation, which they knew darn well was not misinformation because they had Hunter Biden's laptop.
Well, that's going to be a priority for the House Oversight Committee and the House Judiciary Committee. In fact, Maria, the week after the election, when we go back to Washington for the lame duck session, Jim Jordan and I are going to have a press conference, and we're going to talk about just exactly that, because there's so much damning evidence on Hunter Biden. The fact that the FBI DOJ hasn't done anything thus far, and now they're just talking about, oh, maybe a drug charge and lying on a gun application, when there's all this evidence that's in the public's view of wrongdoing, of influence peddling, of securities violations, of money laundering, and they want to talk about minor charges. I agree with Ted Cruz. And we want to know why the Department of Justice hasn't done anything and why the FBI continued to bury evidence when people came forward with credible evidence. And in addition, the 51 former intelligence officials who signed that letter days before the election saying that the laptop was Russian disinformation. All of these things we want to get answers to, and all of those people who signed the letter, they're going to be coming in front of the House Oversight Committee and the House Judiciary Committee, and they're going to explain to us exactly what led them to sign that letter. We want to know more about the whole process of why the Department of Justice hasn't done anything, and I suspect that Ted Cruz is going to be exactly right in his theory.
I mean, I'm glad you brought up these 51 spies. You know, the New York Post had a cover, The Spies Who Lied. They signed this letter right before the election calling the Hunter Biden story disinformation. I mean, do you think that they're unclear as far as what's going on? These are such serious issues. The fact that this family was taking money from Chinese officials who are tied to the CCP, just as the CCP has a stated goal of overtaking the United States as the #1 superpower. We've been talking all morning about their behavior. The fact that there's a police station in New York, a CCP police station. I mean, how is it possible that the Chinese Communist Party have police in this country, and yet these guys are, playing with politics?
I think two things, Maria. I think that, number one, their hatred for Donald Trump clouded their judgment. Number two, I believe that they thought at first glance that the wrongdoing were so bad, there's no way Joe Biden would have allowed his son to receive millions of dollars from Russia and China for nothing, for influence peddling. And when you look at the evidence, it's hard to believe that it's true. I mean, nobody has ever done anything like this. When you talk about politicians and corruption, history will view the Biden family at the top of the list. I mean, the amount of money that this family has received from our adversaries for nothing. Hunter Biden doesn't manufacture anything. Hunter Biden doesn't sell anything. He's not licensed to do anything. This was simply a business of influence peddling. And the fact that nothing has been done to him, and that leaders in the intelligence community and leaders at the Department of Justice have turned a blind eye to this is not going to end well for them in a Republican majority. And we're excited about the opportunity that we believe we're going to have in January to try to get some answers and to hold some people accountable.
Yeah, I mean, it's just extraordinary, Congressman. And I want to ask you about the media's role and the FBI's role, because last Wednesday you wrote to FBI Director Christopher Wray asking for information on Hunter Biden's business assistant, Jackie Boa. Have you heard back from Wray about this? We know that the CCP also uses quote-unquote honeypots. They threw Fang Fang at Eric Swalwell, and he had a relationship with her. They threw Jackie Boa at Hunter Biden, and it appears they had more than just a worker relationship. Have you heard back?
Yes. We've had several associates come forward and say that their relationship evolved beyond their normal working relationship, if you know what I mean, Maria. The fact that this young lady was educated at a university in China that's known for being a breeding ground for spy development. It's also a university where all their major cyber hacks are trained. Then she went from there to work for the Communist Chinese Party for several years. So she has all the characteristics of a potential spy. The fact that she somehow ended up with Hunter Biden in a business relationship and then in a more formal relationship. This makes all the makings of the strategy that China used with Eric Swalwell. They try to find family members of prominent people who are compromised or who aren't very smart, like Eric Swalwell, and they try to develop a relationship with them and get information. And this is something that we want to know. What does the FBI have on this young lady? Because again, if this were anyone else in the United States, the FBI would have already rolled in on this person, because we have the PowerPoints that this young lady put together where they were clearly not only trying to buy natural gas from the United States, they were trying to get their foot in the door with the drillers for natural gas. That was the ultimate goal of CEFC with respect to Hunter Biden, to try to get Hunter Biden to allow them to purchase ownership in the drillers of natural gas, just like Hunter Biden helped the Chinese purchase the rare earth mineral mine in Congo. They want to, as you said earlier, Maria, they want to have ownership over every major industry in the United States that affects our national security.
And how dumb are we that we're pushing this climate change agenda while China is looking at obvious fossil fuel development, wanting to get in on the drillers? Congressman Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State, told me many times that at this point, the CCP is inside the gates of America. Can you do anything to slow them down in terms of their pursuit of overtaking the U.S. as the #1 superpower?
I think we're going to have to look at every major industry. Healthcare, we're going to have to look at our energy industry. Obviously, we're going to have to look at national defense and see exactly what ownership China has in the parts manufacturers, in the suppliers. And we've got to, hold them to a standard to where they can't purchase ownership in the United States. We've got to bring manufacturing back to the United States. And these are issues Republicans talked about in the last Congress, but unfortunately, Democrats want to focus on the Green New Deal and their equality and social justice agenda instead of the issues that matter most to American national security.
And what a disgrace that the Biden family here is aiding and abetting the CCP, whether knowingly or not. Congressman, real quick before you go, is this treason?
Well, they did know, Maria. When you said you look at the emails and text messages from Hunter Biden, he talks about one of the original founders of CEFC was the spy ringleader for China. Hunter admits this, and yet they're doing business with him. The FBI and DOJ had to know this, and yet they've done nothing. And I believe that they'll indict Hunter Biden between the election and January, when I get the gavel, just to protect Hunter Biden. They'll indict him on some minor drug charge when he's done all this influence peddling and he's been involved with the Chinese spy ring in China. Yet nothing's going to happen. We're going to put something in front of the American people. The American people can decide. We're going to issue a report, and hopefully we're going to be able to hold people accountable. And at the very least, stop this direct line from China to the Biden administration.
Unbelievable. Dirty tricks, political tricks in the face of very serious situations for America. Congressman, thank you for your leadership. We're going to follow your work. James Comer joining us this morning.